Hi, in this video we'd like to go through the different types of miscarriages that one can experience. Now, miscarriages, they happen in 1 out of 5 pregnancies, so statistically speaking they are quite rare, but they are definitely not random. Now, we can categorize these 6 types according to what exactly happens and what is the underlying cause, and there is treatment available for you. So don't blindly follow the instructions of your doctor that even though you've experienced a miscarriage, the next one should be successful. Now, if you don't undergo proper treatment and diagnosis after a miscarriage, it is bound to repeat again. So our philosophy here at Antai Hospital is that you need to get treatment first before going for your next pregnancy, which is contrary to a lot of popular opinion and medical advice as well. Now, the first type of a miscarriage is one of the most common types, which is a threatened miscarriage. Threatened miscarriage means a miscarriage that is about to happen but not yet. So these types of miscarriages can be saved with the proper medical attention. Symptoms include the standard symptoms that we see most of the time is the abdominal cramping, abdominal pains, and then vaginal bleeding of different intensity, different severity. These types, if caught early enough, go to the doctor as soon enough, can stabilize and you can preserve the pregnancy. Second one is an inevitable miscarriage. Inevitable miscarriage is a miscarriage that cannot be stopped, regardless of what kind of medical attention, medical support that you receive, because at that point it is already too late. For example, I can bring up a very common case of an inevitable miscarriage, which is a cervical dilation. When the cervix has already prematurely dilated so severely that the pregnancy cannot be stopped from developing into an inevitable miscarriage. So there are certain types of miscarriage that cannot be stopped because, for example, it may have been a threatened miscarriage first, but because it was caught too late, didn't receive treatment early or soon enough, the pregnancy cannot be preserved, and that miscarriage will inevitably happen. Third one is a complete miscarriage. A complete miscarriage is a miscarriage that has started and ended completely, which means the pregnancy tissues have been expelled from the mother's body completely, with none remaining in the mother's body. This is very important, and what we want during a D&C procedure or a process of removal of pregnancy tissue is that we want it to be a complete one. If you leave anything inside the mother's body, then it can potentially develop into an infection or something more serious. The next one is incomplete miscarriage, which is the opposite of a complete miscarriage. So these types of miscarriage, tissue have already been expelled, but some is still remaining inside. Now these types can actually lead to other forms of miscarriage, for example, immunological miscarriage, because the tissue has entered into the mother's system, developing these antibodies for your future pregnancies. Sometimes there are tissues of the placenta, umbilical cord, amniotic sac that are left inside the uterine cavity, and if they are not expelled soon enough, can develop some serious conditions that can potentially threaten the mother's life. Next one is our specialization, which is recurrent miscarriage. Recurrent miscarriage alone has up to 43 individual causes, but its definition means there is up to 2 or 3 consecutive miscarriages that happen at the same pregnancy week, repeatedly. So let's say you miscarried in your first time, it happened in the 7th week. Second one, it happens again in the 7th or 8th week. Third time, it happens again in the 7th or 8th week. These types, we call them as recurrent miscarriage. And these types definitely have an underlying cause that needs to be treated. So don't just go blindly for IVF or IUI, because it most likely will develop into another recurrent miscarriage. You need to receive proper diagnosis and treatment before you can have a successful pregnancy. The last one is a missed miscarriage. Missed miscarriage is quite tricky because the body does not recognize that the pregnancy has already terminated, but the placenta is still functioning. So a distinct characteristic is that we will see HCG being at normal levels, which means when you do for blood tests during your prenatal checkup, it seems to be normal because we see HCG at a healthy level. But progesterone is low or completely eliminated because the pregnancy has already died. These types are known as missed miscarriage, which means the pregnancy is already terminated but still remains inside the uterus, not being expelled. And the most common cause for this in our history with dealing with patients is the most common cause is a chromosomal abnormality, which means these pregnancies have some form of genetic mutation that leads to these types of outcomes. So here at Antai Hospital, we specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of miscarriage. So in order to have a successful pregnancy, especially for those who have a history of a repeated miscarriage or recurrent miscarriage, instead of going for IVF to seek pregnancies, you need to first receive proper diagnosis and treatment. Emphasis has to be put on diagnosis and treatment, regardless of how many miscarriages you have gone through. Only by treating and solving the underlying problem, only then you can conceive and give birth naturally. Otherwise, this process is doomed to repeat itself over and over, and you risk jeopardizing your fertile periods until at an advanced age where you cannot conceive or are already infertile. So time is of the essence. Get in touch with us today if you'd like to seek consultation, receive treatment. Leave me a comment down below as well.